Hello everyone, I'm John Kingsep, and it's another segment of It's All About Clawson. And today we have a lovely, lovely topic, great presenters and guests for us today. And we're going to talk about crooks and fraud and scam and how we can get your money out of your pocket and out of your bank and into the crook's hands. I think it's going to be a very interesting session. I think you're going to learn a lot. You will know some of the stuff, but you're going to learn a lot more. And the whole purpose of this program is to make you be aware that there are people out there who want to take money out of your pocket. And they want to take your identity and they want to take your assets. So, and with me today is our dear friend Cheryl Larson from the Clawson Community Credit Union. And we also have a good friend of mine, Tim Burns, also a lawyer and a member who's been involved very heavily in this community, who has his own law firm. And with me today, a young professional from Talmer Bank, Michael Carnes, who is involved in commercial lending and is also going to talk to us about cashier's checks, certified checks, things like that. Well, Shar, you've been a guest before on our program and were very helpful last time in telling us about things that are going on, but why don't you tell us what else is on the horizon that you're familiar with that people ought to be aware of so that they're not victims?
You know, John, it's interesting. Almost every day we get an email or contact information from either our data processor and or our bonding company. And many things, including telemarketing scams, are going on a daily basis where people get a call from someone who they think is their institution and they want their name, their account number, verify the social security number, and they'll also give or ask for their account number. And unwittingly, the person believes it's really their financial institution and gives them all the information. I don't know how many times we've talked about this, not only through seminars that we have presented or other financial institutions have presented. We hear it on the news, we see it in the newspaper, but people really believe that this is a legitimate call. And anybody who's in the financial information or financial institutions can tell you these are not legitimate calls. Never, ever give your information to anyone. Your financial institution will never call you and request this information. They have all the information. I myself have a call almost every week. I can't identify who the caller is, and they'll call and say, there's nothing wrong with your account. However, we can give you a lower rate. I do not have credit cards that have balances on them, so why would I want a lower rate? I use my debit card often, and my other card, I pay it off each month. So who's this calling? You know, and again, I just hang up or I don't talk to them.
I think that's important to note, because I think one thing that people seem to forget is common sense and the scrutiny that they use in normal life. For instance, if I came up to you and I wanted to ask you what your bank account number is or your social security number, and you didn't know who I was, but I did that on the street with you, would you give that information to me? And if you wouldn't, to me in person, then why in heaven's name would you give that information to someone on the phone who you don't know? They don't have a name, and you have a representation that they represent a credit union or a bank, and you just rely on the fact that it's okay to give them the information. It isn't. And Shar is emphasizing that fact. It is not. And I might tell you something else. You know, we always give our mother's maiden name as a security check. Well, I don't think that's too secure anymore. And you might want to take that into consideration as well, because the invasion has been so great on these scams.
You know, John, when you're talking about that, I answer phone calls at the credit union on a daily basis. And we have codes or PIN numbers that are assigned to the member. The code they will pick, the PIN number they're given the day of opening. However, if I ask them for their code or their PIN number, you cannot believe how many times somebody will give me their ATM number and PIN number. And I'll say, no. And again, it's that trust. And I said, you know, I want the code number you picked or the PIN number you were assigned that day. And oftentimes, they will give me their ATM number because, again, it's a 4-digit number and many
Yeah.
pick a 4-digit number. So it's the trust factor. They call me and they just rattle this number off. And I always tell them, don't give that number to anybody. Do not write that on your ATM
right.
card. Do not keep that in your wallet. You have the opportunity with us and every financial institution I know of to select your PIN. And don't make your PIN for your ATM card something that somebody would be able to recognize.
Right. These crooks are very, very sophisticated. They're very familiar with how to scam you on computers. They're very sophisticated on how to get information. And let me just suggest to you, if you go on to Twitter and other social media, you are going to be giving a treasure trove of information to the crooks. Because you better be careful about what you say on those social media sites, because if you start giving out private information inadvertently, someone's going to pick that up. And you're going to be spoofed. Someone is going to use that information to then link in with you in some telephone call, and they'll say something to you that's familiar or and all of a sudden you're trusting them and you start giving them information. That's what those social media sites do, is that they give these crooks information.
John,
Tim?
there's a lot of talk about the high-tech, sophisticated crimes, but there's also a lot of unsophisticated, simple things that people need to be aware of as well.
Okay.
For example, essentially people are looking for your social security number, your bank account numbers, or your credit card number so that they can easily either set up a credit in your name they can use themselves, buy something with your credit card number, or do a counterfeit check with your routing number from your bank. Well, you might think, oh, well, I want to protect my computer. But many of us do things every day where they can just go up to your house and take it with you right away. For several years, I had the privilege of being a county commissioner for Clawson and Troy. And one of the parts of the job was going door to door, talking to people about what was going on in the county, and then every few years you had to knock on doors to ask people for their
Sure.
vote. Well, one of the things I noticed every time I go to numerous houses would be that people would have their bills in their mailbox waiting for the post person to show up.
Right.
All someone has to do is go up to your mailbox, take that, open it up. They got your credit card number on your bill. They've got social security numbers from your medical records. You might be writing a check to someone. They got one of your checks they can copy, make duplicates, do counterfeit checks. If you are going to be mailing bills, go over to Main Street, drop it in the post office box, or go to one of the official blue post office boxes and drop those in the mail. Also, don't just leave these types of things in the trash, because once it goes out on the curb, it's public domain, and anyone has the right to come up and pick it up.
Right.
Well, unless it's scrap, and then we got the ordinance against that.
Yeah, right.
But in order to protect yourself, make sure that you have a shredder, but not just a single strip shredder, because they actually have computer programs now where they can bind them together, run it over a scanner, and pretty much get your information as good as it was before
Really?
you shred it. You want to get a cross shredder that makes it like confetti. And they've come down in price, so you can probably get one of those for about $19 now. It's
Right.
still not cheap, but it's better than someone getting your information. One of the primary ways, though, that they get your information and set up credit card accounts that you may never even know about is when you get those pre-approved credit card offers.
Right.
You get those all the time, and they will just pull that out of your mail, or they'll find them if you throw it away and you didn't shred it, and they'll just fill it out and change the address, and suddenly they'll begin a credit card in your name. So what you want to do is opt out of those, and you can do that by going to a website called optoutprescreen.com. Because what happens is the three credit bureaus, they essentially sell your information to credit card companies, and then they mail those out. By opting out, they no longer give that information to credit card companies, and you're off the list.
So what is that email again?
It's optoutprescreen.com.
That's great. That is helpful information. And believe me, what Tim says is correct. I mean, those pre-approved cards, they're simple money to the crooks. And as Tim said, they just put in a different address, and boom, before you know it, they're using your credit. And let me tell you something about credit cards, because this happened to me recently. About a month ago, I had lunch at a restaurant, paid. I had taken some people out, paid with my business card, and then my statement came in. And lo and behold, on the statement, on the same date, was a $900 expense to a Canadian outfit that I never had any contact with. Well, my wife immediately called American Express and told them about the situation, and it's now under investigation. But somehow, someone got my American Express card that same day that I had that meal and dumped to my credit $900 to a charity in Canada that has no address and also no telephone number.
Right. You know, it used to be that if you didn't use credit a lot, you had to be a victim of identity theft in order to get a credit freeze.
Yeah.
But they've recently changed that so that if you contact the credit bureaus and pay a $10 fee, if you're not really using credit cards or not using types of loans where you have to get screened, you can actually freeze it so that no one can open an account in your name until you unfreeze it. So if you're not going to be wanting to go to get these deals where you get the extra 10% off at Kohl's, so you get a Kohl's card,
Right.
or you go to Myers and get their Myers card. If you just have like your one credit card and you know you're not going to be getting other credit cards, you should pay that money, opt out of the program, and then if you do need to do it, then you get it taken off the list. But that
Great.
protects you from some of these people who will open up fake IDs in your
Yeah.
name.
Oh, that's great information. Well, Mike, what can you tell us about certified cashier's checks? I mean, that's good money, right?
Well, kind of speaking to what we were just speaking about, scammers are able to use very high-quality printers nowadays that can very accurately replicate cashier's checks, personal checks, certified checks, and something that we used to take for granted as same as cash. It just isn't the same anymore. They may put a legitimate financial institution's logo on the check.
Right.
Especially in this day and age where we're selling a lot of things with online classified, like Craigslist. If you're selling something and you're accepting a check for that, make sure it's from a certified check from a local bank that you can go into that bank and assure that it's a real check and not a fraud.
Yeah, I think that's important because I have heard, and I think Shar mentioned this once, that some of these certified checks may be on foreign banks and it takes about 30 days or more to verify the funds are even there, and many times they're not. And so the person is stuck.
Right, yeah, you're absolutely correct. If you deposit a fraudulent check in your checking account, within a week the bank will credit your account for that, and you'll be liable if it's a fraudulent check, and they may not know that it's fraudulent for up to a month, as you just mentioned.
Yeah. It's very important when you get a certified check or cashier's check, as Michael said, be sure it's from a local institution, number one. And I think in this day and age, you have to call to even verify, just to make certain that that is a legitimate type of document. It's hard to say that. I mean, how do you sell things then, other than for cash? And I think that's about what the name of the game is now, cash.
No, I think you're right. You don't really want to accept checks, whether it be personal certified checks or cashier's checks from someone you don't know. Really the only way that you can prove that it isn't a fraudulent check is by going to that bank that issued the check and confirming that it's a real check.
And you want to be careful because sometimes they will put a phone number on that fake check and people call up and they'll answer it by the name of the bank. You want to independently verify that you're not calling the scam artists.
Right.
Good point. And I want to add on that, there have been a lot of things that come through the internet that have, and one example I've seen is Chase Bank. And it comes through, but there's no telephone number. And it's a letter, it's a form letter addressed to you personally, and they're either asking for information, verification, or selling you something, but there's no telephone number, there's no address, and you better read that letter thoroughly, because 9 times out of 10, you'll find misspellings, number one, and number two, you'll find the English language stated differently than what you are used to. And that generally means that the author of the letter is someone from overseas, either in Eastern Europe, in Africa, or in England. And so consequently, anything that you get from a bank or a financial institution on the internet that asks you for information, it's a scam. It is a scam. And if you want to verify that, call a bank, call the local bank, and they'll know soon enough if that has been circulated elsewhere, so that they can tell you it's a scam.
John, I started my career with the high-tech unit for the Attorney General's office, and one of the things you want to make sure of is when you're inputting information, whether it's on a legitimate site or just a site you're not familiar with, if a pop-up box, you have your screen,
Yeah.
and then a pop-up box might pop up and say, enter this information. Never enter confidential personal information in those pop-up boxes because there is no way that that can be secured. In fact, in some cases, if you clicked on a link for something on another email or on another website,
Right.
it may have loaded what's called a Trojan horse or adware
Right.
or malware. And what that does will sometimes put a program where it will generate these boxes based upon a keyword in the browser for the legitimate site. So you go to your bank, it pops up asking you for your information. Well, you're on the real bank site, but because you've got this program on your computer, it will actually send that information directly to the bad guys. Now, I don't want to scare people. Using computers can be very safe, very easy, and very convenient, but you need to understand the tricks and how to safeguard yourself.
That's true. And the one thing is, and that's a good program we might just have, but the other thing you should do is you may get notifications on your computer for a security check, but it might be from someone different than the security device you have on your computer. Ignore those. Don't open them, ignore them. Because 9 times out of 10, they are not soliciting your business. They want to get into your internet and into your system. And that's what they want to do. There are other ways to do that as well. There's a fantastic scam that's been going on. The FBI first sent out notices in February. Some of the other institutions have sent out notices this month. And it's called Game Over. And Game Over will probably come about by either through the name of an organization that's some national registry organization or the FDIC or some other institution that has credibility. That's will be the pusher of Game Over. The problem is if you open up Game Over, you have automatically destroyed your system. You've compromised your system because opening that up allows the program to go in and get your personal information and you don't even know what's happening. And that is a problem. That's how sophisticated these scam artists and crooks are in connection with what they're doing. And they're taking advantage. So you've got to really be careful on this. So on something like that, be sure that the security program you have in your computer is current and is operating and functioning properly. So you may need an expert to do that, but the cost is really slight in comparison with the risk that you run by losing money and having your system compromised. So you want to be certain that your security system is operating, functional, and effective. Do not open any embedded links from emails if you doubt the authenticity of the sender. And that's a key to this whole thing. I bet $1 to a donut, all of you, at some point in time, have been suspicious about what your spouse may have told you when you asked a question. And that is called a trigger. And it's a gut reaction. And inherently you start asking questions. Well, why would you depart from that if you get something strange in your internet or on your email? And all of a sudden you have that trigger that says, who's this from? How'd it come in here? Why would you open it? So don't abandon what are your own characteristics and your internal thoughts and feelings about something suspicious or something questionable or something your gut says just ain't right. Follow your gut. And always, you'll probably be 9 times out of 10 on the right side. You don't have to open everything on the internet. Again, banks have all the personal information they need for your account at your bank. They will not be soliciting that anywhere else at all. So you don't need to respond to anyone. The other thing I want to bring to your attention is, and this has happened to my wife, AOL sent through a security check about 1.5 years ago. And it said, by the way, can you confirm your Social Security number? Now this is by email. It was an AOL setup. It looked like AOL. My wife put in the Social Security number. And then she had a thought later on, oops, did I do the wrong thing? Absolutely. And she called AOL and they said, we never ask for your Social Security number. Ever, ever, ever. So, fortunately, nothing has happened. But you know there's a law throughout most of the states now called the Social Security Privacy Act. And really, in Social Security, you don't have to give your Social Security number except for the last 4 digits, and that's it. So, you shouldn't even give your Social Security number at all, period. But if you have to, last 4 digits is really all you have to give. Unless you're under arrest or police, law enforcement wants to know what your Social Security is. That's different.
I remember the days of being in college, and that was your library ID, was you giving your Social Security.
Yeah.
You yelled it out in the library so anyone in the room could hear you. And
Absolutely.
Now, that's a no-no nowadays.
Absolutely. So I hope you're getting an idea about what's out there and what really is going on. And I don't know if there's things that you all can add to what we've said or expand upon it.
I just wanted to add, if you feel that you've been a victim of identity theft or fraud, notify the authorities, contact your financial institution immediately. Any other financial institutions you may be involved with, and contact the credit bureau. There are 3 credit bureaus, and if you have any questions, I think John can list this on your website.
I will, yeah.
Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. And then also the Federal Trade Commission, consumer complaints.
Right. And just for your information on the text that we have, the Federal Trade Commission, their telephone number is 1-877-438-4338. That's 1-877-438-4338. That's the Federal Trade Commission. And there's also the State of Michigan Attorney General's Office, and that's 1-877-765-8388. Again, 1-877-765-8388. I also want to talk to you about some more scams that generally occur in the spring and the fall. That's what I call the traveling scams. And that's the person that comes up to your house and indicates that you need some repairs, or indicates you need painting, or your driveway's in bad shape. There are a number of things. Or they ask whether you have anything that needs to be done. And they'll always do it for a cheap price. They won't really give you any identification on who they are or where they came from, and generally they're not local. So let me just caution you. If you need something done around your house in the spring, you know, you can call the Better Business Bureau, you can call the chamber, you can use the local residents who do that kind of thing. And you're much safer when you do use someone locally rather than someone who drives down the street in a car and mentions to you that your driveway needs to be repaved, and it's only going to cost you $10,000, and then they do a watery asphalt over it and collect the money and they're off. Don't be scammed by these kind of things. It happens a lot. They take advantage of senior citizens. They take advantage of gullibility. If you're not gullible to people you know, don't be gullible to strangers who come up and ask for the dime or two they want from you. The other thing are garage sales. Garage sales are notorious. Only accept cash, not certified checks or personal checks, unless you really know the person. And even then, it may be a question, who knows? But only take cash. Be prepared for people presenting large bills and wanting change in return. And if not, then they try to get you to reduce the price. Do not let anyone in your house, absolutely no one in your house. And one interesting facet on garage sales is a group of people all coming at once and besieging you. And that way you don't have enough time to see who's doing what, and before you know it, things have disappeared. So be very, very, very careful on garage sales. Be well planned, well thought out, have people helping you, and be sure you really monitor the cash that you collect in these garage sales. Because many times you get a lot of money, and you want to be sure that money is kept in a safe place so it's not stolen. Because someone might be there looking at the stuff that's for sale and also having an eye out on where you put that cash. So you be very, very careful on that.
You know, to tie into that a little bit, it's not just them taking your item and paying you with a bad check. What will often happen is someone will come up to you and say, you know what, I have this check I haven't cashed yet, and how about you do this? You take some of it and then send me back the rest. You cash it, you send them real money, then it bounces and you're left holding the liability for that bad check, and they've got your money. And sometimes if they took a product or item from whether you posted it in a wanted list or at your garage sale, they got your product too.
That's right.
Also, you have to be careful, because if there is a contest, they may say, we're sending you this check, you got to send us back your taxes or your registration fee or some other fee. It's a bad check, but you send them that money, and then you don't get anything, and they've got your money, and you're liable to the bank to pay that back.
Right, and Michael will tell you that if the bank passes a check through and it comes back bounced, guess what's going to happen?
You're right. It's going to be the responsibility of you to make up that difference in the loss.
That's right. And this is very important. The scams are of all... I got some letters recently from an attorney in England. And the attorney in England, and it had Chambers of London. We went on the internet, and we couldn't find the name at all. But he indicated that I had a relative who had been a client of his and died in a very disastrous traffic accident in England, and unfortunately only had an estate of £6 million. And since he had tracked my name, he knew that I was an heir, and naturally I'd be interested in contacting him so I could come in and get my £6 million, which is about $12.5 million US dollars. Naturally, I was very excited. However, I didn't call. I didn't respond. I got that letter not only at my residence, but also at the cottage. So someone had been doing investigation of the name and trying to pass off something. And Tim will echo what I say. We get a lot of stuff as lawyers. We get emails about fantastic cases people want to give to us and be involved in, and they're willing to send a check. Like the check that has been talked about, looks so nice, presentable to a bank. And I'll tell you, lawyers have been stiffed on this, where they've had to pay back the bank several $100,000 because they fell for this scam and sent some of the money back and deposited the check and then spent all the money. And they got stiffed. And they also got grievances against them for it.
And if you get an email that says a close friend has been injured, or they've lost their wallet and they're in London or some other foreign country, someone's probably hacked your friend's email address. That's a very popular email going around right now.
Yeah, that's right. And that's why, that's an example of getting personal information off of the social media to use in a scam like that. Or grandchildren. That's another incident. Or anything that will pique your interest and say, wait a minute, something's going on here, and I've got to react instantaneously because you feel a sense of anxiety and emergency and so forth. Believe me, it's a scam, and you're going to be taken. So think about this. If you like to live in the style to which you are accustomed now, and you like to save money, and you like to retire with a nice future, then why would you give your money away to a complete stranger? Why don't you think about that for the rest of the day? And then maybe you can think about also the fact that you can be a victim, but it might be better if you take some action not to be the victim. Well, final comments, anyone?
Just be wary of your Facebook and Twitter friends, or if you're online, and if you're going on vacation, share your pictures after you get back. Don't tell people you're leaving because you want your stuff to be there when you get home from that vacation.
Good point. Good point. And on that note, we're going to say goodbye for today. Hope you have a great day. This will be on the website as well. And thanks a lot for listening to us. Take care, because it's all about Clawson. So long.